Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Out on a Limb podcast with your hosts, Will and myself, Allison and Samantha. We have an exciting show for you today, and it's very timely because we're talking about current events, and we're approaching the equinox, and the title is Preparing for an Explosive Equinox. And this is also...
It's a big title.
It is a big
Hopefully
title.
it'll fit.
We'll make it work.
All right. You'll know, because by the time you're watching this, you'll know. But this is unique too, because we have about a 3-minute audio of the collective. Because as you know, we frequently go into a private channeling, and I have a list of questions pretty much at any given time of things I want to ask and explore. And so recently I asked about the upcoming equinox, because a lot of people are getting these premonitions or hits on these dates coming up, specifically the 23rd for the equinox, and also the 24th and 25th have been coming up for people as some sort of significance. And so I wanted to know what the collective had to say about it. And they gave us some really good information. We're going to play that in a moment for you, and then we're going to talk about what's coming. And you know, that came on the heels of the 2 full moons in August, which is also a significant thing to have 2 full moons in 1 month. And this last one was the blue moon, which has been said to be a rebirthing. And, you know, birthing, sacral chakra, creativity, all of that sort of thing is manifesting. All of that comes from the blue moon this past month. So is there anything anybody wants to add as a prelude before we listen to that?
No, I was just excited you guys did that channeling, because for me, I don't know how other people were getting that message, but for me, all of a sudden, I just had this download. A lot of times it's just a download and it's like a knowing, but this time it was accompanied by there was a voice. Yeah. And it just said the 23rd and 23rd, 24th. It didn't say and, it just said 23rd, 24th. And it kept saying that. And I'm going, okay, what about it? And then I get nothing. And I'm like, I don't know what to do with this. So, and this was in August. So I wrote down on my calendar, which I never think to do, but I wrote down 23rd or 23rd, 24th, significance, ? And nothing happened. You know, I kept trying to make things fit in there and nothing happened. I was like, okay, 23rd, 24th, why would I, so then I just happened to throw that out to you guys. And this is why it helps to have community, because then when you get these weird things, these messages or whatever, you have people you can ask and just get a feel on, are other people getting this? So having those hits is amazing. And then having you channel it.
Right.
Oh my God.
And you've been getting something about September 24th, 25th time frame.
I think it was I think it was 2020. Sometime in 2020, we were out on the boat and I was just falling into that little relaxed kind of trance state right before you fall asleep. Excuse me. And I heard very clearly, and then it startled me awake, was September 25th. That's when it will drop. September 25th, and something about dropping. That's when it will drop, or
interesting,
right?
I know, that is so strange.
So that was in the summertime of, I think, 2020. And so I asked the collective at that time, and I don't remember what their answer was, but there would be some kind of energetic thing that we would go through, and we were going to travel at that time. And I said, are we safe to travel during that time? They're like, sure. Wherever you feel led to go there. You'll be safe and protected. If you're feeling led to go somewhere, go there.
Yep.
Don't put your life on hold, which is also good advice. Don't put your life on hold no matter what's happening. You got to live. Just live. You're going to be okay.
That's the whole point of us being here.
Yep.
Right.
Just follow the nudges and live.
I don't know if that particular date was just for me in 2020, but I kept it in my calendar. So we'll see if that has anything to do with this year. But if you guys out there are ready, we're ready, and we'll play this audio. Just sit back, relax, and listen to the collective for a few minutes. That sort of ties into this feeling that the blue moon caused a sort of rebirth, a cosmic rebirth of sorts. Can you talk about this full moon? Was there some difference between this one and others?
The frequency of it being aligned within twice a month, this alignment to the recent full moon and the retrograde aspects, it is an amplification of creativity. It is an amplification of this birthing process. It is an amplification of this understanding that there is a new aspect to humanity that is just on the horizon. Many see glimpses of it, many see premonitions, but many have been felt that their physicality has been shed and a new existence has stepped forward. All of it is accurate. It is multiple dimensional aspects all converging at once, then revealing itself immediately. So this is why at times it is a bit traumatic during these particular energetic and celestial alignments.
Thank you. And then, of course, leading up to this equinox, a lot of people are receiving premonitions, I guess, if you will, about the date 9/24, 9/23, 9/25, and 9/23 being the equinox. Is there anything you'd like to say about that?
Yeah, this aspect of being present. What is going to be needed and critical to existence moving forward is this aspect of being present. For you're aware of being present in your I am and understanding your I am, which then doesn't lead to the understanding of being present in your humanness. But what is required is this aspect of being present. During that particular window of time, there is going to be a significant magnetic shift, a significant solar shift that is going to take place. Many will not feel it, but many will be completely disrupted by it. Your physical aspects, your physical items, those that hold electricity, those that hold energetic aspects may be disrupted as well. There is a convergence of energy at that particular point that is going to be the best would understand it in your framework. Exploded, expanded out beyond what it has been in the past. For each one of those cycles that comes through, there is a eruption of shifting energy, but it is quite small, insignificant at times. This particular window of opportunity is one that there will be a significant burst, an explosion of shifting energies. And this is why it is now time to understand this aspect of being present, because it will take not only your physicality, but your energetic to balance yourself within that influx of energy.
So there you have it. Lots to digest. You had to listen how many times?
I had to listen 7, and this is my 8th time hearing it. And there was still one moment where they talked about, they said something and then explosion, and I keep missing the word, and I don't know why. It's like the weirdest thing. I'm just like,
Right. So they said the equinox was going to be an explosive or explosion or an expansiveness of the
yeah,
energy.
I think when they're saying it's not like explosion, it's just that it's that the energy just going boom.
Yeah. It's
Right.
interesting though that, and many that have listened to me express this before, I don't typically listen to my channels, but in listening to this, it's interesting of listening to the significant pause before the
Find
word
the right
exploded,
word. Right.
to find the right word. So it's, there is some impact there. I think there is some, there is a specific choice of words that were used. So, right, whether it's going to be physical, some physical disruption or some sort of energetic process that we just is going to be so intensified that it's going to be a bit disruptive. Yeah.
I just want to bring up a few points for clarity. Number one, when they say that there's going to be significant magnetic and solar shifts, I don't think that they're meaning the solar flash or solar event. I think that's still a ways down the road.
Well, and then I was when I heard that, because I wrote that down, because I was like, wait, I got to ask this. And that's not talking about like polar shifts.
That's what I was
No,
thinking
no,
too,
no.
is like the
Yeah,
polar
no,
shifts. Is that
'cause that
gonna,
would be
is that what we're talking about? Right.
massive.
If I think there's still some mm, disagreement perhaps as to whether, or uncertainty as to whether that will actually really happen. I think that's way further down the road.
Mhm.
The Earth does go through polar shifts, and we did hear from Enoch,
Mhm.
I believe, in a channeling many years ago that there would be a polar shift, but I think that's way further down the road, and that's when we're going to have a severe population decline, of course, because when that happens,
Yeah.
that is what it and we're talking about on that Earth in that far in the future, there will only be about 10% of the population that there is now, and many land masses that have been underwater will no longer be underwater, and some that haven't been will be.
And note that you said on that Earth, like,
Yes.
you know, so we're talking
In
about
that
the
version.
division of, yeah,
Right.
like there's, you know, and all of this that we talk about, there's the idea that, you know, there's no capital T truth, that there, because we all have our perception of
Right.
reality and what timeline and everything we're living in.
Mhm.
So a lot of it is happening, but some people don't experience it, other people do, you know,
Right.
it's just, it's, to me, it almost goes back to the whole Mandela effect, you know, where it's just kind of like, I experienced this, didn't you? And people are like, no. And I'm like, you know, but I experienced, I know this is real.
Right.
Anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's going to be on the level of that sort of thing, but it is going to be more powerful. My interpretation is it's more powerful than it has been in the past, because it says exploded and expanded beyond normal.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
anytime we have a solstice or an equinox or some other energetic experience, there is the
Mhm.
opportunity or the possibility for electronics to go haywire,
Yeah.
which they acknowledged, or for people to kind of go haywire or to feel symptoms and things. Now, again, like they said, some people will feel nothing, which is usually me, but it's less and less me now.
Mhm.
And some people will feel a lot.
Yeah.
And
And that's what, you know, one of the things that, you know, we've brought this up in I think in a previous podcast is, you know, these symptoms, these energetic symptoms, when we talk about ascension symptoms, or we talk about, you know, energetic shift symptoms and how the body responds to it and all of that, you know, it's, for me, I'm getting definitely more and more sensitive to it. And it's very hard to distinguish between what's mine and what's not mine.
right.
Mhm.
And it's very, frankly, I'll say it's very frustrating, because I consider myself in very good health, and other than aside from, you know, normal stuff. But when this comes on, it's like, where is this? I don't know what this is, you know. So I
Mhm.
start taking, you know, more vitamin C and more vitamin D and all this stuff, thinking I might be getting a cold or a flu, or God forbid the other thing. You know, it's what, you know, it's hard to discern, and going back to those discussions about discernment, it's hard to discern those levels of influx because of this. And I want to make one other point. I don't know if you guys are aware of it or not. And when more of a technical thing, but I would guess we would air this one week after next.
Before the,
Before it.
Right before the equinox.
And the reason I bring that up, and so that would be mid-September, is that I think it's this week, the 12th, and then the
Which is Tuesday.
17th, right? The 17th is another significant date. The 12th, there's a comet that hasn't passed in our area for 400 and some odd years. It's the Green Comet, and it's supposed to be visible on the 12th. And
from this hemisphere?
from the northern hemisphere, and it's going to be about 90 minutes before the sunrise, and about 10 degrees up off the horizon. So it's going to be, you have to be in a big open area to see it, but
But the energy of it's still going to impact.
the energy is going to be very
okay.
significant. But then the other significant date is the 17th, and that's when it makes its closest approach. From what I was reading, and this is what I gathered out of it, on the 17th is when it's making its closest approach to the sun, and they don't know if it's going to fragment at that time or not. So there could be other disruptions. I mean, right now it's
Interesting.
projected to go right out of our solar system and back on its trajectory, but there's a possibility it could fragment, and then
Depending on what the sun's doing. Yeah.
exactly.
Well,
So-
that's interesting. So when you're watching this, as you're sitting there listening to us now, you'll know whether that happened or what happened
Right,
or whether
yeah.
you felt anything. But if you did feel something and you weren't sure why, that might be why.
that might be
And,
why.
and before you move on from that
Yeah.
significant date, don't forget the other one. But that significant date, I came across something, I can't remember what it was, but It's probably something on TikTok, I'm sure.
Mhm.
That they were talking about a comet passing and how there was a major shift on
Mhm.
Earth. Remember, there was like Day of the Comet.
Yeah.
It listed all of these movies, and what was really freaky is all of these movies, the person who wrote them or whatever, they all determined the date to be the fall equinox. And it's
Of
like
this year.
Well, there.
Well,
Well,
just-
in the
just
year
of
of the
whatever.
movie that is
Okay.
taking
yeah,
place.
like
Yeah.
what's really strange about that is there's a list of some 20 movies, and why would they choose? It's just like I kind of get
Yeah.
goosebumps over it. Like why would they choose a fall equinox? Why not a spring? Why not a?
Yeah.
It's just a coincidence.
That is interesting.
And it doesn't mean that it has to mean anything. If I find that, I'll have to send
But it
that
is
link to you,
interesting
even
that-
though it's a TikTok.
Well,
video.
it's
I'm still not on TikTok.
no.
I'm
But
the
she hears it all
last-
from us.
I think I'm the last
she gets
holdout.
she gets plenty of TikTok
Right in the
videos
comments.
from me, from Samantha.
Am
About
I
Because there's
from
some
everybody?
interesting things
From
out
everybody.
there. I mean, you take the massive humanity, and some people, it can be way out there, but then there's,
Yeah.
there's inklings of truth, and you take these different things and you cross them over, and you begin to see what I call like the nexus of
Yeah,
truth.
sure.
But
you
if there's
know.
anyone in viewer land that's not on TikTok, write us and let me know if I'm the only one. Maybe I'm the only one.
She wants your support to resist TikTok.
I don't care. I like being
But
a rebel. I'm
think
all right.
I think the greatest aspect of TikTok is a great exercise in discernment.
For sure.
Yes.
It's an excellent, if you want to test yourself on your discernment and what's true to you, go down a few rabbit holes.
Because people are trying to get your attention. So they're putting this interesting, fascinating, they're
Or not
tying
even the
things
truth.
together.
Not even the
No,
truth.
truth,
They're
yeah.
just
For sure.
spewing stuff. So
For
yeah.
sure.
Okay, so what's the other significant date?
Well, they
Well-
were the 12th and the
12th and the 17th. Those are the 2 days.
And what was with the 17th?
17th is when that comet's making its closest approach to
Oh,
the sun,
okay.
and we don't know. It could be, and so maybe
Ah.
that whole aspect of exploding or whatever, it might be the shift. In
Interesting.
the end, right? So,
but it will for sure be energetic. Whether
Yes.
it explodes for real, I don't know. I don't.
Yeah, I don't
If
know.
it does, I don't think it's going to be devastating to us because
No.
we would have
Yeah.
heard something.
Well,
One would think, but
yeah, right, right.
I mean, I think our collective or our little circle would have probably
Picked
heard
up on it,
something.
or
Yeah.
sure.
So one thing before talking about how we process through that and get through that time period is
Mhm.
this idea of the moons. And
Mhm.
you heard that they did mention again, excuse me, this idea of creativity and rebirth. And that a lot of people were feeling, they said, a new aspect of humanity on the horizon.
Yes.
Are you guys experiencing that? Let us know in the comments. Have you had this sense, this premonition that there's a new version of humanity on the horizon?
I've had
Yeah.
that for the longest time.
Yeah.
Like you could just, the attitude towards, like, especially in Gen Z population, the idea that, and part of part of this is bred from, they'll never be able to afford a house, that, disillusionment. Okay.
Yeah.
So part of it's bred from disillusionment, but the other part is the quality of life is more important than the paycheck.
Yes.
And it's so amazing to hear that, and it's, so I'm going to do what I love.
Mhm.
And that's the, and like, I talk about that kind of stuff all the time, and we try to, we do everything
Yeah.
we can to live that. And yet that's the energy that they're bringing in.
Yep.
So, who's to say that how this wall of impossibility has been building up, this, you can't afford a
Mhm.
home, you can't, you're underwater with all this stuff, how much that's helping to bring in that
Right.
energy, or just that energy was naturally coming in anyway, because we're moving from the head space into the heart space.
I think it's a combination of both. I mean, it's,
Mhm.
it's a reflection of the old societal norms starting to break down. And anytime we have these energetic shifts or these equinoxes or whatever it might be, we've got retrogrades going on and whatever. It's bringing to the surface realities that haven't been present in so long. So
Mhm.
in this generation, in the younger generation, that really you're right. Many of them do not care about how much money they're making. They care more about their quality of life and their enjoyment of life, versus because they've seen the Troil, what word is that?
Toil?
the toil and the torment that their parents have
Turmoil.
Turmoil.
All
thank you.
three.
We're going to come up with this sooner or later. It
We
takes
make
3 to
words
make
up
a
here
word.
out on the
On the
limb,
fly,
and
yeah,
you
yeah.
know,
Oh,
that's how it is. But you know, they see their parents and how they went through, and they struggled, and they did all these things to, you know, have a big house and do all the things, and yet they don't want that. They want,
You know, I think it's even more than that. I think it's that they see behind the veneer of these organizations and systems that are in place.
Yeah.
And they don't want a part of it.
Yes.
So they don't
Good
want,
point.
a lot of them are choosing not to go to college because it's
Good point.
just, you know, whatever it is. And you get out of college and you still can't find a decent job.
Yeah.
Or they don't want to be tied into a desk job at an organization.
Yeah.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
okay. And so, and these are just wanderings of my son's mind. He's 23, he's Gen Z. And, but it was interesting because the other day he says to me, he's like, I would like to garden. And I was like, okay, you kind of need space in a house for that, you know? And he's like, you know, I want to, not just like, not flowers and stuff, because I want to garden, like I want to create
Sustainable
food. Yeah. And I'm like, what? And, you know, he's kind of like,
Yeah.
we talk about that and look where, you know, I can do that in the backyard.
Yeah.
So like, you know, that's a process that isn't something you just do for the next 3 months.
No.
So it's kind of like, I'm going to put my imprint on this house, because he also said something about maybe putting some money into fixing up the house a little bit. And I'm kind of going, why would a 23-year-old be thinking of this? But I think that, you know, it's going back to, I mean, if you think about it, maybe before the 50s, I don't know what the date would be, but it used to be, you know, kids lived at home
Yeah.
until it came time. And even, you know, if they got married, that person would come to live at the house
Or
your
they'd
parents'
live,
house, or
they'd live very close by because they
Mhm.
would support, because most of it was rural farm communities, you know, and so, yeah, bigger families would stay at home longer, or they'd build close by to support the, you know, hundreds, thousands of acres that they had to sustain their livelihood. And it was a big community, big family aspect. And we fragmented that by going into, you know,
Mhm.
you know, whatever you want to call it, subdivisions or, you know, skyscrapers.
yeah.
So
I
those
just
are-
I thought it was interesting just that he's
Right.
got that, there's that nudge. I think it's a nudge right now.
Sure.
And just like, I don't know what he's coming across. I don't know if he's been listening to some of the stuff I've been saying. But
Probably a combination, and it's giving him the freedom to express that in himself.
yeah, just to explore,
Right.
just to go,
Yeah.
what, you know, what are the possibilities?
And even if that particular thing doesn't stick and he doesn't have this massive
Yeah.
garden for years after years, but he's at least, this is the way he's applying those thoughts that these guys are coming in with. They're
Yeah.
coming in with these
Mhm.
paradigms already in
Yeah.
place as part of their DNA. And so this is how they express it or explore it, at least
Yes.
explore it, right?
because 80s kids would never have stayed at home.
Oh God, no. Well,
No,
we
I
never
was-
did, but we
yeah.
weren't planting gardens. We were out, you know, doing all kinds of other
Yeah,
yeah.
havoc around, you know, town.
Yeah.
So.
But those are ways we're going to get through this period, is relying on others. And we're going to talk about that more. But
Okay.
I did want to mention another interesting offshoot about all of this time frame. And you mentioned the 12th, but the 11th through the 17th is also a time period with elemental and fairy energy. And what's interesting about that is that was actually what I saw this morning about from a video. That was the 4th hit I've gotten about elemental energy. So last week we were up at our property in Virginia and we went to Fairy Stone State Park. You may have seen that if you watch us on Facebook. And we found these little fairy stones.
Mhm.
And what we understood was that this particular part of the state park is what I intuitively got as a playground for them. It's a
Mhm.
playground. And so they provided a ton of fairy stones that we collected, one beautiful one in particular that I absolutely love. And so I asked in a channeling how I could connect with them, or what should I do or know about this little stone that I found. And I was told from the fairies that just holding that, then I have the energy of that location again, and I can tap into that realm. So that
Mhm.
little park represents their realm,
Uh-huh.
a playground where humans and fairies can interact,
Yep.
and the elementals. So that was the first interesting sign. Then our friend Michelle, who's in our Sunday group, when I was mentioning this to her, she said, you know, the first time I connected with you, which wasn't terribly long ago, she goes, I sensed elemental and fairy energy with you. She had never told me that. So that was the second thing. So this morning, I'm coming
Mhm.
up the stairs to the treehouse and I see, unfortunately, a deceased dragonfly. And it reminded me that Friday when I laid out on our swing, because I like to do that after work to decompress, there were a bunch of dragonflies on stalks of, I don't know what those stalks are that are sticking up in our yard,
Little grass stalks. Yeah.
little weeds or whatever. And they were little dragonflies. There must have been 5 of them, all just sitting like little post toppers. And I thought to myself on Friday, I'm like, I need to look up the meaning of dragonfly. And I never did it till I saw the one this morning. So I look up the meaning of dragonfly in our book. And the last line in the description is, you need to work with the fairies and elementals.
Oh, no
I'm like,
way.
you've got to be kidding me. Seriously.
Yeah.
So I had 4 hits on fairies and elementals.
Yeah.
The week preceding this week coming, I mean, the weekend preceding this week coming up, about working with fairies and elementals. So for any of you others that feel drawn to fairies and elementals, this is a good week to connect with them, I think.
Can I share something? That's
Yes,
like, okay, so we're going to
yes.
go further because this is last night I said I started to tell you about a reading I had. Then I go, no, I'll just tell you tomorrow.
Yeah.
So this part so applies. This is what I was going to tell you. I was going to tell you this last night. Oh my God, this is so weird.
It is weird.
So I did a reading for a client, and I got to keep it somewhat generic because she's waiting to hear back about a property. And I was feeling out the property, like, is she going to get it or not, or whatever? Is there anything she needs to know about the property? And a couple of things that I told her that were definite hits for her. And then I was like, you know, it's like they want to build like this kind of place where they can entertain, but then she also wants to have a meditation space, maybe like do like a shed, a she shed kind of, neat thing where she could do her meditation. And I started getting a feeling of where she should do it on the property. And I said, you know what, before you guys start to build, you need to go by there because this land has been untouched for so long and so much has been built around it. And there's something to do with fairies. They've been pushed, like this is kind of becoming one of their last retreats. And they're okay as long as you let them know, hey, we're going to come in here and we want to reside with you, because if you don't, they're going to wreak havoc and mess with the energy. And I'm like, so, and she's just smiling. I said, what? She goes, every time I get goosebumps, man, every time she drives by there, like full body goosebumps, she has been tossing crystals out to them.
Nice.
And I was like,
nice.
that's, she's like, I've already been doing that, just hoping, okay, this is mine, and she's just been throwing these crystals out. And I'm going, that's exactly what you need to do, because they want the shiny, nice, pretty objects and stuff. And she's like, I just can't wait for the land to be cleared. And then I could go to all 4 corners. And I'm like, you definitely need to do that. And I said, and it's interesting because there's a property, they were worried about this property, catty corner, but I knew that there's already, I already knew there was this property where these people were throwing things onto the land to make people not buy it, not develop on it and stuff.
Oh, wow.
We're talking like low country voodoo.
Yeah.
Stuff.
Oh my gosh.
I said, don't be surprised if you find chicken bones. She goes, oh my God, there are chickens all around there. And I'm like, well, it's not that someone's chicken wandered off.
No.
It's that there's been a hex and it's been thrown on there.
Yeah.
But it has very much offended these fairies, So anyway, but if she works with them, I'm like, work with them because they're excited. And okay, so what's even crazier is when she first sat down and I was checking in with her guides, I'm like, there's fairy energy around you. I'm like, I'm not saying that you are, part of that, but they're like several of them just kind of around you. And so this whole thing fell into that. And I'm just like,
interesting.
Isn't this really cool?
It is cool. So I think the bottom line is the fairies and the elementals are really active now. They want to reactivate because they kind of go into hibernation, I think, or maybe don't make themselves known to us, but they want to make themselves known at this time to help us. So as much as you might feel like you're getting a setback from the energies or the retrogrades that happen periodically or any of that, if that's wiping you out, call on the fairies and elementals to help you. And we may even be able to get this up and posted by Wednesday. I don't know. So we'll see if you're,
Wednesday.
If you're listening to this during that time, call on the fairies and elementals. If not, sorry, but you can still call on the fairies and elementals.
Well, and set up like little, like just pretty little, whatever, just a couple of little chips of crystals, lay them out, like you would the stones, have people do the stone thing.
Oh yeah.
Stone stacking.
Yeah. So similar to that, just leave those out as it's kind of like an offering. It's an attraction point. It's a whatever. But because I got that, well, actually my daughter received that message when we were out at someone's property one time that they really gravitate towards that. It's honoring them too. So
Cool.
Anyway,
Well, anything that you do with the intention of connecting with them is going to
Yeah.
be received
Yeah.
well.
But
They're
they
going to
like shiny
appreciate
pretty.
that. Yeah. So in terms of then handling the energetics that are coming our way, or the perhaps 3D trials and tribulations,
Mm.
because that has also been
Yeah,
said
you're
that
using the word.
we're in the period of tribulation at the moment. The collective said to be present. And during that particular channeling, because that was just a piece of about an hour-long channeling that we did, and the personal messages to us, Will and I, were
Yeah.
also about being present. That was
Being
the first
present,
thing they
yep.
said. I always asked for an opening message, and they said, be present, remain present. And so it's kind of, let's talk about what that even means.
That would be good.
Because
Yeah.
even and I've been doing this since 2018. I'm no expert by any means, but I had a hard time and I had to bounce it off my friend Judy too. What does that mean to be present? One thing that we kind of decided it for sure means is that if you're dwelling in the past of something that happened that was bad or whatever, you're not in the present. And if you're worrying about the future, thinking about the future, you're not in the present either. Even if you're excessively hoping for the future or something good, that's not bad. But if you're dwelling there more than you are in the present, then it's distracting you from the now.
That's right.
And they said in this channeling, they said, when you are present through breath and through your vision, then you allow the circumstances to unfold in front of you in the moment, and you can see through the existence in front of you. So in other words, if there's chaos in front of you, or God knows what's going to happen in the public arena, the politicians or whatever,
Yeah.
but you can see through that nonsense if you remain present and calm, breathing. You can see through it to the correct decisions,
Yeah.
the decisions that need to be made, or the truth behind it. To see the existence in front of you and to see the purity was the other thing that they said.
Mhm.
Well, that makes sense, because you're going into your heart space. You're not letting, media and all that other kind of stuff get a hold of your
Right.
brain and start you
Right.
down that road. You're taking a deep breath and centering yourself. And that
Yep.
makes a lot of sense.
And I would say it also comes down to, and this may be a little harsh, but keeping your emotions in check,
Mhm.
because you can, yes, emotion can be utilized to flush things out of your system energetically.
Mhm.
But in this case, for being present, I think it has an opposite effect. If you allow any of that human emotion to come up, it allows you to expand on those human thoughts that elicited
Yes, elicited the emotions.
the
Mhm.
emotions.
Mhm.
Yeah. So you have to kind of, some of it is reversal of old techniques, but being present is just, that moment in time, just that moment in time.
But the collective would say, and has said, that if you feel those emotions rising, by all means,
Yes.
that's a
don't-
You gotta
trigger,
get it
get
out.
it
don't
out.
suppress them,
Just don't dwell there for
Yeah.
Right.
very long.
Well,
Right.
it's an awareness. You're supposed to, it's a call out that you need to pay attention to something.
Yes.
Right.
Acknowledge what it is, allow it to move through your
but work
body.
through. Yeah.
And then release, disconnect from it, and just be like Bashar always says, move into that space of, well, that was interesting.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Just,
Yep.
okay.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I've been angry before and argued with the collective, like I like to do.
Mhm.
And and they've said you can be angry all day long, but you
What's
know
it gonna get you?
better, and why would you want to dwell there?
Right.
Right.
Well,
It's
and-
not helpful.
And anything like if people hear the word tribulation stuff, they start thinking end of world and everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's no end of world. There's no end of us. There's
It's
no.
the
No.
end of the old world
Right.
and the
God, we
receiving
all-
of
and
the new.
everybody wants that,
Mhm.
except for those that are holding tightly to their money and that kind of stuff. But everybody, they want that. They keep saying something has to change, but it's like this, something has to change, but
However,
don't let it inconvenience me.
right,
Don't
right,
let
right.
it affect me and
Let-
my family.
Right.
Don't
let it change for everybody else but me. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Well,
the
that's
thing is,
true.
it obviously doesn't work that way. It never
Mhm.
does.
That's very true. Good point.
Yeah.
So they also mentioned don't take sides, or what I understood as defining yourself from one side or the other.
Oh,
So
it's
even
us
if-
or them.
Yeah. But even if you're not in an aggressive us versus them, like I'm a Republican and Democrats are terrible, even if it's not that aggressive, we also like to define ourselves like I'm pro-vaccine or I'm not pro-vaccine, or I'm pro
Right.
this or I'm not pro that, or I'm
Or I'm on a
whatever.
spiritual path and you aren't.
Right.
I'm
yes.
awakened and you're
Yeah.
not, right? So even identifying yourself on one side of the fence or the other is not helpful, even if it's not in a negative or bad way or aggressive towards the other side. Just being in the middle, being the observer in the middle, I think, balancing, because then you have compassion for yourself and for others, no matter what side you're on, because it's all okay. It doesn't matter which side you're on.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of identification. And we like to give ourselves labels. Like we talked about before, labels. We like to label ourselves as I'm this or I'm that. Like it has to be a binary, right? So yeah, avoiding that is helpful.
Well, I think, that kind of goes back to like, we love to label. And we know from the work that we do now, we're unlabelable.
Unlabelable. That's another good one.
Again, we make our own words here and out on the limb.
So we're, it's there's a purpose behind that. Like if we can't even label what it is that we exactly do, then shouldn't we be taking that further into everything that we're, and maybe that's part of the whole, I'm just going to throw this out, and part of the whole transgender and, the plus and all that kind of stuff, which I'm an 80s person. It's hard for me to get, sorry. But but that is kind of a mind blower, mind expansion, like how I don't understand, but it's that whole learn to fit outside of the labels and that sort of a thing. I'm touching on that very, very lightly, but I think that there's a reason behind that, because here we are having a hard time labeling ourselves. And I'm sure that that's true for many different professions, trying to break out of just, I am this.
Yeah, I think so too.
Right. Everything has been an extreme way of helping us to see that we need to disassemble the boxes that we've put around ourselves. Right. So that's not, we don't want to do that. We don't want to label. But they, and this is another part of what I think means being present. They said, you understand yourself as your I am, and hopefully you're embodying that a lot. But when you embody that, you're not embodying your human. If you completely embody your I am, you're not in your humanness. And if you're completely in your humanness and forgetting your I am, then you're imbalanced also.
Remember, I got that message from the collective where they're saying, balancing relationships, that you can't, but that it's not advantageous to sit there and be in your I am so much. And I'm still working through that message, but that you have to move it and, honor the human aspect. Sure. Because that's the whole reason why you're here.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like we're here to have this human experience and honor that. But then we're also,
but then we begrudge
here,
it.
Well, yeah, but we're also here on, I don't know why I don't like the energy of mission. But for some reason that bothers me, but we're here to serve a purpose on a higher level too.
Yeah.
So it's a really weird place to be in, to go, I know there's something inside of me that I'm supposed to communicate messages and be here for people. And that you have to move up into that higher energy to do that. And yet you also still need to be a human and yell fuck when you need to yell fuck and, and all that kind of stuff. It's
yes. And so what I took to understand as being present is also being integrated.
Yeah.
So being the I am and the human. So in your human actions and reactions and intersections with people and through situations and experiences, it is to go through them as a human, but remembering and calling upon the presence of the I am and the strength of the I am and the discernment of the I am, so that you can be more fully human and appropriate. Yeah. Excuse me.
I really like that.
So balancing, they said, the physicality and the energetic.
And so that was when they say the physicality, they're talking about the humanness. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Being balanced in the physicality, we do as light workers and healers and all these people, awakened people that want to help. We often are like, take me home. I want to go back. I don't want to be here.
Too hard.
Yeah.
Right. And we
want
want
off the ride.
We want to stay in that enlightened state, and whether we're using psychedelics or whether we're having a meditative experience or some bliss experience, we want to be in that. Who doesn't want to be in that bliss state, right? Yeah. But the whole point of awakening into that I am understanding is so that you can use it on this plane of existence.
Because
in
the
this
ultimate
realm.
assignment is to be human. I mean,
Right.
and it's not to be a full embodied, enlightened individual. That isn't.
Or you
why-
wouldn't need to be human. You'd be up
right.
on the other realms.
Right. That we didn't
Exactly.
pick this, in an incarnation into the human realm just to be an enlightened body in a human realm. No, we did it just for the opposite. We came into this to be a human into a very dense realm, and
Mhm.
then begin to remember pieces of being enlightened, not full enlightenment. Yes, some do get full enlightenment. There's no question about it. But for the majority, it's just to remember pieces of that to help our existence as we mature, as we expand, as we
Right.
understand ourselves.
And to bring the energy of that, the
Right.
love
Yes.
and the energetic into this realm, because that's, the more love that we expand into this realm, then the higher humanity as a whole can evolve. So it takes all of us to be doing that, to be bringing that energy down from above,
Yep.
down from source, and
Embodying.
expanding it
yeah.
through our physical body. Correct.
Yeah.
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 So what else does being present look like to you guys when you hear that?
When I hear it, it's a lot of it is when you're having the connection with another
Mhm.
person,
Mhm.
it's to really be listening to them. There's hearing and there's listening.
Yes.
It's a good
And
counseling practice.
Hearing
too.
is when you're walking around and someone's talking. You can
Mhm.
hear them.
Mhm.
Listening is when you're making eye to eye contact and
Engaged.
and it's hard for me sometimes. My son will come into my office and he wants to be heard, but he wants me to listen,
Mhm. Mhm.
and sometimes I'm on deadline and I'm just like going, okay, right at this moment, I've got to look at this, but I am doing my best to listen too. But to me, being present is you're really listening. You're also validating another person's experience. You're not going like, as they're talking, you're going, oh my God, this person is just so like, they are so wrong. It's the whole thing of, you're not wrong because they're not wrong. That is their perspective. That's what they're
That's their
choosing to
reality.
experience at the moment. And they're trying to make sense of it. They're
Yeah.
trying to work through that. And the best you can do is, it's not your job to make sense of it for them. It's to be present.
Mhm.
That's holding the space. You can't hold space for another unless you're being present.
Right.
So I think I riffed on that.
Yeah.
It's
That
like,
was
maybe
good.
that's-
And so noticing when you're not
Yeah.
present by, am I worried that
Yeah.
I'm not present?
Right.
Because
Right.
in the moment, you're safe.
Yeah.
In that moment, you're fine. And so Amanda Lawrence, I heard her this morning say something about go outside and stare at a flower. Just look at this beautiful flower. If you can't find something pleasant in your life and you're worried, go outside and look at nature. Find something small that you can appreciate and love and kind of draw from.
Mm.
Shift your energy.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Be
definitely.
in the now.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
Well, whether this airs this coming up Wednesday, which would be the 13th, or whether this airs the week after, just before the equinox,
Mhm.
we hope that you guys have a beautiful passage in September. And if there's anything that we can do, please write to us. Our contact information is below.
Yep.
Or if you have any interesting experiences, write to us or put them in the comments. Any suggestions or tips or anything at all. We love reading the comments, and we do appreciate those viewers who have been faithful in watching and participating.
And we do respond.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we love that.
Mhm. Definitely.
So thank you guys so much. Like, share, hit the notification bell, all that good jazz. And until next time, we will see ya.
See you guys.
Bye.